Hello, students. I haven't actually gotten to talk to you very much or communicate with you in a way outside of my typing, so I thought that I would make these little videos as a sort of trial run to see if it helps to just sort of hear me talk about what you just read. So we're going to start with the nominative case in Group 2. And what we're trying to do on this page and in general in this section that's about the nominative case is lay the foundation for what it is you're going to be looking at changing when you start studying different cases. And if you remember from Group 1, the reason we change cases is because word order isn't as important. So, the nominative case, which in Russian is called imenительный падеж, is the marker of the subject of a sentence. It's also used after or as the predicate of the verb to be in the present tense. So we'll talk more about to be on a different page, and we use some examples of this grammatical structure on this page. So I'll bring those up later when we come across those. So the endings for the nominative case for the nouns, we're talking about masculine, feminine, and neutral nouns. Now you can tell a masculine noun by looking at it. If it ends in a consonant, if it ends in the I kratkaya, which is the short E, if you remember from your letters, or the soft sign, which is also called the miyaki znak, literally means soft sign, then it's a masculine noun. Now not everything that ends in a soft sign is masculine. The way that you'll know if it's masculine or feminine is because I'll mark it in your vocabulary. Your feminine singular nouns are going to end in an a ya, a soft sign, or iya. Your neutral singular nouns are going to end in an o, a ya, or an iya. Okay? And we'll have examples of these in your vocabulary. I want you to see, and if you've taken any Spanish or French or Italian, you're more familiar with genders and how to recognize them in the dictionary. So the nominative plural is the only time that the plural case might be different depending on which, if it's masculine, feminine, or neutral. And as you read, we talked about how spelling rules and fleeting vowels can make different, smaller exceptions. And this is very true. But I would rather you read those things, write them down, put it somewhere in the back of your memory, and then when you're going over your vocabulary, when you're making out worksheets, you can try to develop an instinct, and if you make a mistake with fleeting vowels or with a spelling rule, I'll correct it and you can rewrite it out and it'll become more ingrained, rather than trying to get you to memorize a whole bunch of rules about stuff you're not sure about yet. I'd rather fix that when we come to it later. So the way that these plurals are going to form is they'll either form with the yeri letter, which is the I sound, or they'll form with an I if they're a soft ending of the noun that we're changing. And if the difference here is if it's a neutral noun, it'll end in a ya if it's a soft thing, and an a if it's hard. So let's look at some examples. So student, it's a masculine, hard word in Russian, student. And when we form the plural, we put on the ending, we put on the yeri, the hard ending for masculine, and we say studienti. If we talk about the noun amerikanец, it means an American male. It's masculine and it's hard and it has a fleeting vowel. So the y disappears, the second to last letter disappears, and we get amerikanci, Americans. If we look at amerikanka, a female American, we find that it also has a spelling rule at the end. So the I that we've been seeing as the plural ending isn't going to be there. Instead, it's going to be the I. And so it's just going to be amerikanki. Okay? Book is feminine, and it's hard, and it has a spelling rule also, like amerikanka. So kniga becomes knigi. Door, which is feminine and soft, and you'll know it's feminine because in your vocabulary list it'll be listed as feminine, is dver. And when you put dver into the plural, it becomes dveri. двери. Кольцо is a ring. It's neutral and it's hard. So the ending for plurals for neutrals are difficult things to remember, and they're going to end in a if it's hard or ya if it's soft. So кольцо changed to колца. Sea, moria, is neutral and it's soft. And the plural, the stress of the word shifts to the end, which I always mark with underlining it, unless there's only one vowel, in which case you know that's where the stress is. So it's moria, moria. Movie. I included this vocabulary because I wanted you to know that some nouns, and almost none of them that you're really going to run across, are indeclinable. And this is one of them. Quinoa means a movie, and it's always going to be quinoa, no matter what happens. No matter if it's plural, no matter what case we put it in, it's always going to be quinoa. Another example is Chicago, the city. It's Chicago. If you're in it, if you're going through it, if it's just Chicago, it's Chicago. Okay? I included a note here that says keep in mind that some words, and you've probably run across this if you've studied other Romance languages, are going to be masculine while having a feminine ending. Mushina is the word for man, and it ends in an A. And so when we decline it, we'll put it into, the A will decline as a feminine ending, but you wouldn't ever say maya mushina. If you were going to say my man, you would say moi mushina, because it's a masculine word, even though the ending is feminine. And you won't have to worry about this too much. It's just with a very few number of words, and that's one of them. Another one would be papa, like papa. So now we're going to talk a little bit about adjectives. Adjectives will always agree with the nouns that they're modifying in gender and in number. So if they're masculine, feminine, neutral, or plural. They won't always agree in hardness or softness, like we were just talking about. They don't have to agree that way. They are in themselves either hard or soft, and if they're hard, they take the hard ending that I'm about to tell you, and if they're soft, they take the soft ending. So the endings for adjectives that you're going to want to look out for are e, oi, which is a hard ending, and e, which is a soft ending. For feminine, it's aya, hard, and ya, which is soft. For neutral, it's going to be oye and ye, which is hard and soft, respectively. It always will be on my tables. For plural, it's uye and iya. So here's some examples. So we're going to look at the English adjective for red, or the English adjective red. In Russian is going to be krasny. The example that I wrote out is "Эта книга красная." Because kniga is feminine, the ending of krasny is going to change to aya. So krasnaya. For green, green is zelyony. And the example sentence is "Сегодня море зеленое." Oya is the ending. And the stress for zelyony is always going to fall on yo. Anytime there's the letter yo in a word, that's where the stress will be. So when I say the ending of the adjective, which I really enunciate as oye, in this case, since there's no stress, it kind of sounds like zelyonaya. Aya. Sounds kind of like aya. You'll get used to this, the very subtle difference. And if you know the noun that adjective is describing, you will be more aware of if it is neuter, neutral, or feminine. So I'll read through the rest of the example sentences. Good is хороший. I'd say он хороший, he is good. Bad is плохой. Кот плохой студент. A cat is a bad student. Obedient, послушный. Пес послушный студент. A dog is an obedient student. Beautiful, красивый. Моя мама красивая. My mother is beautiful. So I have, as you've read, a larger discussion of how to not fall into the trap of thinking that hard and soft have to agree once you're trying to agree gender and number. So there's more of a discussion on that on the website. I won't read through all of those because hopefully you understand where I'm coming from, as I've explained. So now I'm going to talk about possessive pronouns, and then I'm going to talk about question words, and then you are free to go on to any other page and look at activities, vocabulary, and hardness and softness more, as well as to be, which is what some of those sentences just were. So possessive pronouns are my, yours, his, hers, its, yours, in a formal or plural sense, as we have in Russian but not in English, ours and theirs. So every time you try to express his, hers, or theirs, it's always going to be the same. His, spelled like Yego but pronounced Yevo, is always going to be Yevo. No matter what case, no matter what it's describing, always Yevo. Same with hers. It's going to be Yeyo. Theirs is going to be ich. Ich. But for mine, yours, informal or singular, and yours formal and plural, and ours, it's going to change depending on gender, number, and the case we want to put it in. So for nominative, I'll read these out. For mine, I'm going to say them in a masculine, feminine, neutral, and then plural list, as all of the tables that I make are going to be in. So moi, maya, mayo, mai. So for yours, informal and singular, it's tvoi, tvaya, tvayo, tvai. For yours, formal or plural, it's vash, vasha, vasha, vashi. And you'll notice again that the unstressed A at the end of vasha and the unstressed E at the end of vasha are going to sound almost exactly alike. They fall to the sound, the schwa that I talked about in group 1. For ours, it's nash, nasha, nasha, nashi. Okay? And the last thing we're going to talk about is question words. So we've got 6 of them in English. They all 6 of them exist in Russian, but we're only going to worry about 2 because these 2, who and what, are going to change depending on what case we want to put them in. So who is кто and what is что. Что. Кто, who, and что, what. And I'll describe more about how they change in cases later on, but for right now I want you to write them in the margins of your notes, make sure you circle them a few times, and keep them in mind when you think about a case as a whole. I want you to have those question words there. I want you to think about nouns, adjectives, pronouns, possessive pronouns, and question words. Now hopefully you remember all your pronouns from group 1, but I'll run over them real quick and then we'll be done with this wrap up. So for pronouns, it's going to be ya for I, ty for you, informal or singular, on for he, она for she, оно for it, мы for we, вы for you, formal or plural, and они for they. So, glad you listened through all this. Go back and listen to any more parts of it, go through the rest of this page, and then get on to the other sides of the links, have this overview, and feel free to email me at any time. I'm always here for your questions, and eventually you can get to your activity sheets, and I look forward to reading those. Okay, bye.